Greetings, fellow Salt Incisors, and welcome to another video on solo RPGs. Today I want to talk to you about Fairyland Confidential, which is a solo TTRPG. It is a journaling genre game, but it is set in the world of noir detective story meets fairies, which sounds like a little bit of a weird mix, but it comes together very, very nicely. Now, you're probably noticing the complete lack of visual aid here. I do apologize. I have this game as a PDF. And I thought about running two screen, but I really want to use most of the screen here just to show you how the game plays in a little bit. So please bear with me while I just read you the quick intro to the game, and then we can proceed and I'll show you how it comes together with the dice and my cards. So, the game intros as follows. It was a Fairyland case. I hate Fairyland cases. Once magic gets involved in the case, you never know what is real and what is illusion, who is acting of their own free will, who's been enchanted. It's always a mess to sort out, but no matter how much I swear off the fairy cases, I always get drawn back into another one. So that is the backdrop for the story. You're living in this sort of crime-ridden Gotham-like city. Fairy portal opened a few years back. Now fairies are in a mix. Some humans go to Fairyland to look for magic. Some fairies come here for some opportunities. And now we have a dead body. Whose dead body? Well, that depends. The game actually comes with 3 potential victims and 3 potential crimes. And it is up to you as the reader to mix and match them the way you want. So for my game, and the one that we'll use for this explanation, I used 2 greedy and 2 deep as the victim. So in this game, the victim is Monty Calder. By the way, you don't have to worry about spoilers. You have access to all this information when you begin the game. And because it's a journaling game, the plot is very much up to you. So the way this game ended for me is likely very different from the game that you will experience, even if we have the exact same beginning setup. All right? So in this case, Monty Codler is a human mining magnate. He built up his mining company through shady business dealings and lucrative government contracts and has a lot of underpaid fairy labor. Kobolds are mine spirit. They lived underground and were notorious for scaring away miners and causing mine collapses. Calder had the bright idea to hire the kobold as miners instead of humans. The mine spirits could sniff out veins of precious metal and were immune to mine collapses. And they didn't ask for much, just some cobalt ore. Eventually, the kobolds realized they were being duped though. Now the mine is shut down by a strike. The kobolds won't work until they're paid human-level wages. Anger and recrimination on both sides of the picket line may be enough to lead to murder. Beside the kobold labor, how else was Calder's mining company cutting corners to increase his personal profit? So this is a bit of like an intro line to get you thinking about the victim and the setup for the crime. This sheet also introduced our first 3 suspects for the case. Now I won't read in details, but we have basically Furbo, which is a kobold labor union organizer. We have Millie Hoback, which is the former overseer of the mine, currently unemployed. And we have Vivian Calder, who is his estranged wife. She left him when she found out he was cheating. And right here in the middle, we have case victim-specific prompts that we'll answer. The second half of the case has to do with the manner of his death. Again, there's more than one provided for the game. This is the one I chose, which is the day before they died, the victim received a potted jasmine plant as an anonymous gift. No one knew who sent it, but the flower was pleasant enough to keep. During the night, the jasmine's plant's tendril grew out from the pot. Vine kept across the building, filling the entirety of the room where the victim slept. By morning, the vines had enveloped the victim and strangled them to death. When the plant grew so naturally quickly, it burst the pot. Inside the potting soil is the skull of a human or human-like being. No one knows who the skull belongs to, or at least if they do, they aren't saying. What previous case does this remind you of? Which suspect was involved in that? Though you never could prove anything. So again, this is like prompt to get you going on the backstory. There's a few lead in here, right? Like, does it matter whose skull it was? Maybe just some spell ingredient, or maybe it's linked to his death, or maybe it's linked to a previous file. So just the setup of this game from a journaling perspective is excellent because it just provides so many angles for a story. It's great. And once again, we get 3 suspects introduced to us. We have Eglantine, who's a rose elf, a spirit of flower. Obviously can control plants, so that doesn't look so good. We have Mo Darling, who is the victim's illicit lover. They were in bed beside them and they did not die. Also a gambling addict. And we have Della Grave, who's the victim half-sister. She returned to live after her husband left her, leaving her with nothing. And once again, a couple more prompts. So this is sort of what you will mostly reference throughout the game. There is a separate sheet with prompts for cards that are not court cards, so aces through 10 of every suits. And now I will show you quickly how the game plays. So the first thing we do normally is that we come up with a bit of a backstory for our detective. So how did we get roped up into taking this case, even though we hate fairy cases, etc. I think in my case, I just completely randomly decided that I was childhood friend with, I think it was Mo? No, it was Della, the half-sister. And actually, since we all went to the same high school, it turned out that I really disliked Vivian. And I think I decided in my story that basically I also took it, A, to help Della, but B, because I really hate Vivian. I kind of hoped she would turn out to be the killer. Spoilers, she was. But again, that's my own story. Yours will probably evolve very differently. So the first thing one does is prepare a tableau of cards. We would eliminate for the first card the jokers and the face cards and the aces. That's looking pretty good. All right. Then we put them in ascending order by number. And there is also a tiebreaker for the suits. So we go this way. One moment, please. Here we are. So the one thing one has to know too is during this game, there's no sort of pass or fail in terms of encounter resolution. It's all about story driven, but there is a built-in timer. One of which is a danger, and the other one was, oh, what's the term that they use? It's basically for like fairy tribulation. So it's like dangerous fairy interference, and danger is more like dangerous noir interference. Likewise, in addition to this deck of cards, you would need 2 dice, different colors. One of them to represent noir theme, one of them to represent fairy theme. So I think you can tell which one is which in this case. So we begin the game like we begin every scene by rolling dice, and we look at our number. Now we will assign one number to represent a suspect. So I could choose at this point either to speak with Mili Hobak, which is the former overseer, if I assign this die to the suspect, and then the 4th die would give me this card, which would be the prompt I would answer, and I would answer it with a fairy vibe to it. However, if I choose to switch it over, which is I want to talk to Mo Darlington, the illicit lover, then the dice number 3 would be assigned to prompt card 5 of clubs, and I would use this cue here to address that. So that's how you decide, like that's how the next little bit goes. Now the one consideration in making this decision is that if you choose a die, sorry, both ratings start at 1. If the die value is higher than the number you're currently at, you have to increase it. And if you ever reach 6, you are dead. Or in a case of magic, you are incapacitated. So maybe you got lured by fairies, you forgot what you were doing, you got enchanted, you got turned to stone, who knows? So give this a magical vibe, but still game over. And if you are dead, well, again, go noir, you know, maybe feet in cement down the river you go. It could be anything really. So you want to try to keep this die, well, at this point it doesn't matter, everything will be higher than 1, or almost everything. But, you know, so in this case I can just go with flavor, because no matter what, I'm going to have to increase one of these 2 ratings. So say that I go this way, I want to start with the illicit lover asleep in bed. Maybe I would start there anyway, because it's kind of, you know, suspicious that she was right there, like, and why didn't she die? You know, what is the story? So, oh, sorry, he died. Men lover, does not matter. And then I would look up the other prompt table to find out what prompt is associated with the 5 of club. And in this case, 5 of club is, what did the suspect 1 possess that would have been crucial in committing the crime? What did they know claim to have lost or given away? So maybe I could say, you know, Mo Darlington, I remember them. They were actually involved in a case back when they were a kid. One of their childhood bullies, I'm going to say to childhood because I'm making this stuff up on the go, was found dead because of a plant, and Mo had been questioned at the time in a plant. Oh no, maybe we'll switch it up a bit for the sake of the story. Say that he was swimming in the river and that the algae grew and dragged him to the bottom. Of course, Mo, being a human person, was not seen to be, and a child, was not seen as a real suspect, but he was questioned. And now we have another person in his life who dies with plant interference. So there we go. Now this particular prompt doesn't necessarily advance the story. We would conclude our game either when we die, because danger reached level 6, we get incapacitated by some way. By the way, this would now be increased to 2. Or I clear 5 of the 6 suspects. So there are some prompts here, those that pertain to queen or kings, that once they're asked in relation to a suspect, clears them from the investigation. So that's one way to advance the story. Now this particular prompt does not advance the story in terms of resolving the game, but advance the story in terms of giving me direction. It's also very fun. Then we would remove this card and draw a new one, and it would get placed in the tableau according to the usual order. And then I would resume rolling my die and choosing to assign. So maybe I would get the 1 noir so I don't advance my danger die, and I would question the suspect number 2, who would be Della, the person who hired me. And I could build off that. I could see if she was aware of Mo's earlier story, that sort of thing. And that is how the game progresses. So the other way also to clear a suspect is if you roll the die and you roll a pair. Then the suspect that matches the pair, in this case it'd be number 6, Eglantine, the flower spirit, would become clear. And then I would draw on the current fiction where I am in my story, the prompts I've already rolled, perhaps who they are, to come up with a way to clear them up. And I could say, not them, clear them up and keep going. So this is how the game is played. So again, it is very narrative driven. It took me about 2.5 hours to play the game. Now, of course, this could be shorter, longer, depending on how much you end up journaling, so writing down. If you do it theater of the mind in your head and you just keep track sort of your status with the different suspect and the tribulation card, it can go really quick. As long, of course, as you give yourself time to really build the scene, because that's where the enjoyment comes in, is to come up with this really weird. My story was way torturous. Like, it started off that, I was hired by Della. She was the half-sister. I was talking to her. She really hates the lover, so I went down to see the lover. I was completely enchanted throughout. I remember nothing of this conversation. I ran to Della again, and she says, yeah, should I have mentioned she's a bit of a sorceress? So that explained it. I re-cornered Mo later in a bar. Bar was run by Vivienne's gang. She has ties to the organized crime. So then it kind of bounces back and forth, Millie got cleared almost right away. I rolled a double for her. So basically I just said that I went to her watering hole and she went at length about how much she hated magic and etc. And I could see the strength of her conviction. There's no way she would have used plant magic to kill the guy. She would have just used a rusty shovel or something. So that's how the story goes, right? Like you just evolve it and make it go. I think it is extremely well constructed. Like I'm actually very appreciative of the setup of these two things, the starting question, the 6 suspects provided. It's a brilliant way to set up a scene and let people build upon it. Now, again, this is very much a journaling game, a prompt-driven game. This is about narrative. It's about building a story. It's about experiencing living in a noir genre. It is actually also a game you can find on itch. As usual, I'll put the where you can find it in the show notes below, or sorry, the description of the video below. It is pay as you want. So, I always recommend that you throw a few bucks to the poor designer who went through the trouble of creating this. But if you're not in a position to really spend money on this hobby right now, you can also get it for free. And it was a really enjoyable experience, frankly. Like, I think this is top quality design. It's very good for journaling. The author managed to build an extremely interesting world, very cool setup, very good prompts, very evocative, intro. So overall, I highly recommend that you check this one out. The Fairyland Confidential definitely gets my support. And on that note, I'll wish you a happy, happy day.